Geometry Dash 2.207. Not many people talk about it. It lives in the shadow of its parent update 2.2, the update that turned the game into a full-blown engine. But as for 2.207, the main defining feature is that this event button is now functional. This tab was for user-created levels specifically made for some sort of occasion, an event, if you will. The first set of event levels were made to promote the Geometry Dash NCS album. As of me completing this script, they seem to have started making more event levels, so this video is already kind of outdated before it even releases. But to be clear, I'm going from back on Dash to button masher. Now, something like this seems pretty unremarkable, but this one simple feature is what got me back into the game. I was pretty into things after 2.2 released, but after I finished Club Step, I kind of fell off. I didn't want to bother with the other demons, and I really did not like playing user levels. But once event levels were added, I came back because of the promise of free rewards. I mean, who wouldn't? But my gosh, these levels almost always blew my mind, and were all so fun that I immediately knew I needed to make a video on it once they were all finished. These are all excellent levels, at least in my opinion. So here we are, ranking them all from worst to best. Rankings are based on gameplay and visuals, with the former mostly taking precedence. If the decorations and effects are amazing, but the gameplay is bad or boring, the level will be ranked low. Before we begin, I must disclose that I'm relatively inexperienced when it comes to Geometry Dash. Like I mentioned before, I didn't really play many user-made levels before this, and right now my hardest is Deadlock. So it's possible I have no idea what I'm talking about here. If I end up praising something that's already standard, for example, please bear with me. But let's go ahead and dive in. Number 12. In last place is Cheat Codes. I have nothing against this level at all. It just does the least for me out of the event levels. The first reason that comes to mind is the visuals. The deco is great, don't get me wrong. It's all very layered and detailed. But the actual style itself is pretty flat compared to the others. The effects go crazy though. I especially like this minimap here and the filter on this monitor. This is also the first level to reference a previous event level with this Visit Citadel sign. I suppose I should also touch on the music before we get to the gameplay. I do actually quite like it. Normally dubstep is not my cup of tea, but Tokyo Machine managed to make a song that I more than tolerate. It packs a hell of a punch, that's for sure. Though, the lyrics are a bit nonsensical. I mean, what does free throw and let's roll have to do with cheat code? I'm nitpicking. I'm sorry. Anyways, let's break this level down and get on to the gameplay and some other things I liked along the way. The beginning is pretty standard, just simple gameplay, but then we get to this single screen robot part. This section completely bamboozled me at first. I'm used to going off screen and coming back from a different area, but this one changes your direction and spits you back out the same way you came. I mean, it's not a bad thing. The arrows indicate you'll be coming back, and you even get a bit of time to react regardless. I just wanted to share that little anecdote. Then we get a cutscene where these aliens are apparently experimenting on you. And at first, I thought it used the player colors for the quote-unquote blood, because they exactly match the colors of my cube. But no, it's just coincidentally red and purple. After this, the beat drops and the gameplay comes at you a bit faster, but it's still overall relatively simple. The deco here is pretty gnarly. We have blood splatters and saws all over the place, and this shark is getting completely brutalized. Like, my goodness, man. Next is a boss fight, and herein lies another small gripe I have with the level. The boss fires off so many attacks and it does it so quickly that you aren't able to dodge them by watching for its telegraphs and reacting accordingly. You just follow this trail that weaves through the attacks. It feels like spectacle over substance. Granted, that spectacle is great, it makes the level a lot more memorable, and the boss's design itself is pretty sick. But it's a bit lame mechanically. It feels less like an actual boss fight and more like a flashy obstacle. But don't worry too much about that, because after this, we get to the best part of the level. Up to this point, the gameplay has been relatively unimpressive, but here it gets a lot more complex. The UFO part especially feels very fun and challenging relative to the rest of the level. This also features my favorite part of the song. It combines the more melodic beginning of the song with the impact of the second half. And that animation at the end is so friggin' smooth, but it also just happens out of nowhere. That's a thing that happens a lot in this level. Things just happen out of nowhere. You're going through the city and boom, aliens. You're just flying through the spaceship, then boom, boss fight. You're flying through this last bit of the level. Oh yeah, there's this hole here that they don't even like foreshadow or anything. It's just there and you go through. It almost feels like they were trying to tell a story with this level, but the pace is so fast that I have no idea what's going on. What is this, a modern Hollywood movie? Though I'm probably reading through the lines a bit too much. Maybe I have this level too low. A lot of its placement is a bit subjective, what with the deco and the song. But like I said, nothing really jumped out at me besides the boss. And hey, something had to go last, right? Still a solid level though. Number 11. Alright, why is Button Masher rated Mythic? If neither Boogie or Ruins get Mythic, why should this one? If the reason is that this is the final event level, well that's not good enough. But that grievance aside, let's talk about the level proper, because it's good. The opening of the level already has this neat detail where your attempt count is represented by this coin count, because arcade. It's basically just an attempt count with extra steps, but it's still a cool detail. The background here is also very nice. You have all of these posters advertising previous levels. Stuff like this helps add a climactic feel to this otherwise mostly ordinary experience. Speaking of which, this level, at least in the first half, is the most normal and familiar feeling one out of all of them. The gameplay is fast and dynamic, but also relatively simple. The deco uses a very similar pixel style to Dash and other early 2.2 levels. In some cases, it's almost identical. To go even further, this song was composed by MDK, who made Dash as well as Press Start from Sub-Zero. This song is a lot more distinct from those two, but you can still really feel the style, especially with the way it progresses. After that aforementioned fast and dynamic gameplay, we reach level 2, where we get the other boss fight from the event levels. For this one, you do kind of have to dodge some telegraphed attacks instead of just following a trail for like 2 seconds. Then we move on to level 3. How underwhelming. But wait, in level 3, we have a once in a blue moon occasion where you actually have to fight back against the boss. I mean, you fight back by just playing the level as normal, but it is still fighting back. We'll take it. But despite my praise, I do think the cheat codes boss was better by virtue of lasting longer than 5 seconds. Also, I wanted to point out the way that the voice says "ram it." It's just funny. I think it's funny. Believe it or not, that boss fight wasn't actually the climax of the level. It's just the build-up. After some button mashing, go figure, we get to the beat drop. Oh yeah. Now this section is... There's so much fire flying around and so many effects happening that it's pretty hard to read. But hey, at least it syncs pretty well. The gameplay is simple, it just tells you to hold here, you know, like...
What? It's just an ordinary pixel. Oh my goodness! Squidward!
Alright, this part is just garbage. There's so many obtrusive effects, stuff flying across the screen, and random objects that it's just completely on-sight readable. You can barely see what's going on, what's gonna kill you, and it's not even clear where the actual ground is. It's also like really ugly. I mean, I get the point that the level is bugging out or whatever, but seriously? This is the only example of just straight up bad gameplay in any of these. We'll see instances of questionable gameplay in the future, but none of them I describe as bad. Now, with all that said, this last section of the level is fire! So basically, this game that we're in, it's cooked. Like, the game's words, not mine. So now, we gotta escape. And this next part is just awesome. Flying through the arcade, dodging this claw, jumping over these air hockey things. I love diegetic obstacles in my Geometry Dash levels. I love when the obstacles are not just objects themed around the environment, but objects that are part of the environment itself. And some of the details in this arcade are really neat. You can even see the Babylon arcade machine from Backstreet Boy. Then we go back into an arcade machine, a different one. There's this cool ball and wave, then this oddly satisfying wave transition. Then we get a Duckstep themed Flappy Bird game, Mario Kart, and a cheat codes themed shooter, each with slightly different quote unquote gameplay. Fun fact, you can actually die here. You probably won't. Mario Kart and cheat codes is just clicking, but like, holy crap, is all of this cool. Anyways, then I died because I wasn't expecting some regular gameplay for all of that. Then I died again because I guess I mistimed my jump or something. Like, why is there jump scare here? Who thought this was oh, it's a fake out. Alright, yeah, that's pretty neat. We then finished the level with all these little icons from the other event levels and a congratulatory message for beating them all. So yeah, this is a really strong finish to the event levels. That second half was just really amazing, and honestly, the first half was really solid as well. But unfortunately, I just can't let 55% slide. That's just putrid, man. Like, I would have had it higher, but like, dang. Number 10. Retrospective is kinda underrated. I mean, there's a reason for that. The gameplay is a bit forgettable. But the only praise the level seems to get is for its song. I mean, yeah, the song absolutely deserves it though. I'm not familiar with JJD or Alex Scrindo's work, so this might just be an average Tuesday for them, but this feels like a throwback to the mid-late 2010s era of YouTube. This could absolutely be someone's outro song. However, the more you listen to the song, the more you'll hear that extra sauce that most of those outro songs don't have. Maybe the melody is more complex, maybe the instruments are more unique, but this one sounds a lot better than your average YouTube song. As for the things that I think are underrated, the visuals, as well as how the gameplay relates to them. The colors of this level are easily the most unappreciated aspect. They're just so good. The shades of teal and purple complement each other beautifully, and they remain entirely consistent throughout the level, making everything very aesthetic. Like, I don't know how they made such a clean and sterile shade of teal make an area feel so alive. But that forest scene at 26% feels like that. It feels alive. Another excellent part of the level are the effects. The background grid displaying the current gameplay at the beginning of the level is an early example. These sigil things that appear around the orbs are very nice, and the way that many things light up as you pass them is very pleasing. I also love this big ass explosion and the 3D cubes and other stuff that comes out of the crater after the beat drop. I'm not sure what it all means, but those effects, as well as the pulsing lights and the well synchronized gameplay, come together to make this area very striking. Then 73% onward goes even crazier. Even more colors, even more flashing lights. We have these audio visualizer things, these constellations in the background, more pulses. It's just beautiful. Though you may have noticed, I haven't really mentioned the gameplay at all. And that's because, like I said at the top, there really isn't much to say about it. It's mostly simple cube gameplay with a couple other game modes occasionally thrown in. The only notable segment that isn't carried by its relation to the deco or the song is this UFO part because of the annoying invisible gravity trigger. Not the best thing to be remembered for. Also this really dramatic dash orb. Just that. I like that. Yeah, it's all forgettable, and the reason why this level isn't any higher despite my praise. It's really the little things that make this level, but the ones later on have both little things and big things to like. Editing crafty here, I forgot to mention the coin. I mean, it exists. You do an extra jump here in the UFO part, and then you have some extra cube gameplay. Props for adding in extra gameplay, but other than that, it's nothing special. Don't know why there's just one of them, but I mean, it's not harming anyone. It's cool. Moving on. Number 9. Okay, so I just spent all of that time talking about how great the aesthetics were in retrospective, but honestly, geometry blows it out of the water. The warm glow, the sparks in the air, the detailed background, the various plants everywhere, the music, oh, the music. Tobu and Diviner is out here making the chillest song of all time while still having it be an absolute bop. Do people still use bop? Am I old? Anyways, I could fall asleep to this song or run a mile to it. I'm talking about the first half, to be clear. The second half is the same YouTube outro feel as Retrospective, but without that sauce I mentioned. This is one of the liveliest levels we'll discuss, and easily the coziest one. And then those fireworks hit, and I'm reminded of Tilt City from Wii Fit on the Wii. So now, on top of all this level has a deeply nostalgic feeling, at least to me personally. Wii Fit was one of my first ever games I had played, and I played it at age 3, and Tilt City was my favorite minigame, so very nostalgic. I actually had this level a few spots higher because of this, but I decided nostalgia wasn't a good enough reason, so I knocked it down a few pegs. Though I will say I'd prefer this over the next 2 spots on the list. That tangent aside, why is this level so relatively low for all the good things I had to say about it? It's the gameplay. For everything this level does right with it, there's usually some aspect that's off. The beginning is fine enough. Going in and out of these apartments is a nice detail that adds into the lived-in nature of the city, and it even somewhat justifies the invisible size changes by using perspective. Though yes, those invisible size changes are the downside I'm referring to in this section. Flash forward to 24% and the tempo picks up. The pace of the gameplay picks up with it. This section swaps between robot and cube as we go across a bunch of these buildings, and it flows really well. We even get a usage of the teleport orb. Like I said a while ago, I haven't played too many user-made levels, but out of the ones I have played, the teleport orb is never used. So I like to see it. Anyways, the issue with this area is that some of the robot jumps are a bit hard to gauge, especially when they're slopes. It's not entirely clear whether you need to jump off the slope or let it do it for you, though this might just be a skill issue on my part. After this, there's a vertical section where you're going upwards up the side of a building. I really like vertical gameplay. Sometimes it can throw me for a loop, but it's always a nice change up to things. The feeling of going up as opposed to going forward is a lot more satisfying. This part doesn't really have a downside either. It's simple enough to be fair, but it doesn't baby you per se. Once we reach the top of the building, we get that YouTube outro segment of the song, accompanied by the swing copter segment and those aforementioned fireworks being used as obstacles. Here's another example of a good diegetic hazard. It's not even like they just show up and explode out of nowhere. They're telegraphed pretty well by these circles. Plus we have this trail to follow if the circles weren't a good enough warning. The only problem here is that these small little tunnel things with the jump pad and the slope are really janky, and even if you do know that the trick is to just be aiming downward, sometimes it still has strange timings. It's small, but I had to mention it. No notes on this ship afterwards, that's good. The 4x speed cube section is a little difficult to read due to the motion blur, but it's alright. The duel at the end is very good. I like how it calls back to the very beginning of the level. Oh yeah, I guess there are coins here as well. Where the heck are they? There's the one at the swing copter section that requires you to skip the jump pad, but I've never seen the other ones. Alright, we have this playthrough of the level here from Virapin as all coins. Let's just see if we can find them here. This is a live crafty reaction. Yep. They have the apartments that I liked. Yep. Oh yeah, these little wall things up here with like the dash room and stuff is cool. I just didn't have anywhere to mention it. What? Wait, what? Hold on. The umbrella. Wait. What did they skip the blue orb? Wait, hold on. Just give me a second. Did they buffer the blue orb? Yeah, they buffered the blue orb, and now wait, that umbrella isn't usually open, is it? What? Is there a key somewhere? What? How are you going to know that that's an actual key? Look at how detailed this level is. How, like, this could just be just part of the level, of the decoration. And that wait, did they even buffer it? No, they just skip it, I think. Okay, that is weird. I do not like that. Alright, is it maybe at the... I already mentioned I love this part of the level. Is it here? Whoa, what? Hold on. Sorry for slowing it down so much, but I can't tell. They skip the jump here, and they jump across. Can you even wait? Is that coin like even there? Is it even visible? How are you supposed to spot that? No, how? That is a terrible coin. What? You can't even see it. And that one's actually good. I like the third one's fine because it's you can spot it, and it in my opinion makes it pretty clear on what you need to do. I think that's fine. Wow. Well, those sucked. Wow, those were some really bad coins. I don't know what they were thinking with those first two, but I don't think that's a huge blow against the level. I do think Retrospective is the better level gameplay-wise because they didn't have as much questionable things. But this one's a lot more fun and has an infinitely stronger theme, more memorable gameplay, and just so much more. Like, seriously, did I tell you how cozy it... Number 8. Alright, Skyline Part 2. And before anyone asks, there is a Skyline Part 1 also made by Kovan and Electrolight on NCS, but there doesn't seem to be a corresponding Geometry Dash level, unfortunately. But back to Part 2, I'm not particularly impressed with the theme of the level. The city setting has already been done twice at this point, although they are different enough for it to be relatively distinct. Also, the backgrounds feel very lifeless for the most part. I thought the background at 10% was a dystopian wasteland for a minute because of the crooked buildings and some of the ones further back looking like structural skeletons. I will give the level one thing, however. It probably has the most diverse selection of city locations out of all of them, what with the subway and alleyway looking place in addition to the standard rooftops. That subway part isn't anything special otherwise though. And yeah, I have no strong opinions on this song one way or the other. Anyways, let's talk about the stuff I actually liked about the level. First off, the effects. I feel like I bring these up every other level, but you're gonna hear even more about them as we go on, so strap in, bucko! I wouldn't say the effects in this level go as hard as Button Masher or even Retrospective, but things like these reflective buildings are a nice detail. The ship gameplay accompanying these buildings is also surprisingly memorable, probably because it looks really tight and intimidating, but it's not too hard. I also like this girder wave thing, diegetic. The aforementioned alleyway segment at 45% is also pretty cool. It's not often that I see single screen areas that don't involve you going off screen at all. Though again, that might just be because my user level experiences are limited. This area is also pretty detailed. Not only is there graffiti as to be expected, but also things like this vent or these vines at the top, and again, diegetic inclusion of balconies as platforms. Shortly after, we reach the beat drop of the level, and we get to what is probably a flaw, but it's so funny that I don't even mind. The level is rated as an easy demon, but the gameplay thus far hasn't been much harder than the insane event levels. But then all of a sudden, we're dropped into what is potentially the hardest singular section out of all of them. What with the super fast-paced cube with lots of orbs you have to react to quickly, as well as these fast and relatively tight waves in between. But by the time you get to 75, it's just back to being easier, though still relatively fast, to be fair. Now don't get me wrong, the difficulty imbalance is funny, but it's also just really fun. It all flows, syncs, and is super satisfying to pull off, especially the wave parts. It's just really smooth. The effects make a comeback as well, with this audio visualizer and these glowing sparks decorating the top and bottom of the area. These are relatively superfluous compared to everything else, but it's still pretty nonetheless. The background is a bit better as well. It's just a still blurry image, but it does have some light and by extension life to it as compared to the parts I've complained about earlier. The spider orb slash dash orb part is neat, I guess. I like the cubes just vibing and flying alongside you at the end. I wish they'd show up more throughout the level. That would add the life it so desperately needed. This is the first level we've discussed that I'd say is consistently enjoyable from start to finish. The difficulty spike's probably a flaw, but it didn't impede the experience for me. Not the greatest level, but the first one that I'd say doesn't have any glaring flaws. Number 7. Ruins has had the highest rise in my opinion as I wrote the script. At first I hated it and had it dead last accordingly. Then it grew on me a bit, and I had it at like 9, maybe? But after playing it a little more, I realized it was even better than I had thought. So here we are, at number 7, about halfway up. The visuals of this level are genuinely insane. The sheer amount of detail and depth makes this unlike any level I've ever played. There's fog in this level, like fully detailed fog. Look at it, it looks real. I can't imagine how poorly it must run on mobile though. And the craziest part about all of this is that the gameplay does not suffer at all as a result of these visuals. Okay, maybe it does a little bit, but we'll get to that. Anyways, let's start by pointing out all the things I liked about this level before the drop. These statues are pretty cool. They naturally are very highly detailed, some even in a state of decay, but they also feel pretty distinctly Geometry Dash-esque, which I don't really think is necessary, but it makes the level more mysterious. And this strange technology powering on as you jump past them gives the feeling that you shouldn't be here. This level has a good atmospheric narrative, and I will continue to comment on it as we continue. There's also this completely pointless duel, lol. After that, we enter the ruins themselves. Immediately the gameplay speeds up, and this is what I was talking about. The gameplay is strangely exciting despite how simple it is. Things like this quick UFO section exemplify this. And again, the detail of the backgrounds are crazy. We can see these monitors have this code mumbo jumbo, as well as this crazy wireframe pulse effect that goes across the level. And it's at this point there's a shift in the song. And this is a detail I didn't even notice until I had finished writing this segment because it is really subtle. Throughout the level so far, the song has had some sort of EAS message in the background or something, but at 20% it shifts to some sort of religious chanting type beat, likely from the aliens that created this stuff. It sounds like it's in English, but I can't tell what they're saying. What are they saying, DJ FKU and LXNGVX? If that is how you really pronounce those names. Alright, so it seems that what caused the cool wireframe pulse is this laser thing, and it appears to be reassembling the level around you. We get a bit closer, and then we go ball and have a transition inside of the laser, which again is just so cool. That finishes up and the beat drops, as it does, and the entire aesthetic of the level changes. At this point, it feels like you've fallen down the rabbit hole. It no longer looks like you're in any old ruins, it looks like you're in a fully operational base. That screen in the background really ties everything together, and it's so impressive to look at. The movements and the pixel stuff is stunning, as is most of the deco and effects of this area. But the craziest part is the gameplay is still very readable. Most of the crazy effects and such are explicitly layered behind it, and all of the background stuff contrasts well enough to not blend in too much. This was actually my original problem with the level. On my first couple playthroughs, I thought this was entirely unsightly. And that might still be a problem, but I had no issues with it on my later playthroughs, so I think the gameplay is fine. And I don't know how Grax does it, but it's all so simple and forgiving, but yet still exciting and stands out despite this. I don't think it's just the fact that it syncs with the music and effects, I think it's also because it almost feigns difficulty. A lot of these jumps seem like they're a lot tougher than they seem. What? That's redundant. Anyways, or things like this wave appearing tighter than it actually is. After the wave I mentioned, we hit a spider part, though you could have fooled me because we do like one click as a spider before we're back to a cube. Yeah, a problem with this section is while visually it looks even better than anything we've seen yet, the gameplay is practically auto, probably to account for the amount of stuff happening. While I appreciate that, I would have also preferred to be a little more hands-on. Then they make your icon stretch and there's this pharaoh looking ass statue in the background carrying your ball. Not just a generic one, yours. Now that second one is pretty easily explained, they just use some dual wizardry. I can't even begin to explain why, but at least there is an explanation. But how the heck did they stretch your icon, dude? At this point, it's clear you've made a grave mistake coming to these ruins. You have this divine being actively attacking you, and now you gotta get out of here. I like how these screens go static when the lasers hit them. Nice attention to detail. Gameplay wise, this part's a lot better. I think the ship is probably the best game mode to use if you're gonna have stuff flying across the screen. It's the easiest to keep engaging while still having it be fair. The last part, 82%, is a synthesis of everything good I had to say about the level at this point. We're now inside of the statue itself, and we can see its eyes in the background. There's all kinds of movement and pulses and things coming out of them, very reminiscent of the screen background back at 41%. Gameplay is a lot more fun here, still not as good as before, but solid. And we wrap it up by jumping out of the statue and finally escaping. Wow, what a level. It's very rare you see something like this, where stunning visuals is properly balanced with fair and engaging gameplay. And those uneasy feelings it can impart into you, assuming I'm not tripping, is a cherry on top. Though despite all of this, I can't shake the feeling that this one might have been made for a better watching experience than anything. Maybe I'm wrong, let me know if I'm burning the kitchen with this take, but it feels like either the gameplay is oversimplified to accommodate for the reduced visibility, or the gameplay is too fast for you to really take in the visuals. Either way, you're not going to be appreciating everything this level has to offer if you're playing it. But either way, this level is great, and I honestly wouldn't have batted an eye if it were rated Mythic. Absolute cinema. Also, I didn't have anywhere else to mention this, but the aliens pictured frequently throughout the level are the same ones that are in cheat codes. So awesome continuity, guys. Number 6. Now, I know what you may be thinking, but Crafty Boy, you were just complaining about how the deco and ruins got in the way of the gameplay. How can Boogie be any higher if there isn't any notable gameplay? Well, the key difference here is that this level doesn't even try to have gameplay. Therefore, there isn't enough to get in the way of the visuals, and said visuals can't lead the gameplay to be oversimplified because it was all simple to begin with. Boogie goes all in on the visuals, so I can appreciate them a lot more since I don't have to worry about anything else. And that's a damn good thing too, because this is easily the most impressive one out of all of the event levels. I have no clue why Button Masher can be mythic, but this one is not. So anyways, with all that said, I'm not even gonna try to comment on the gameplay at all, because that would just be a waste of time. Let's just make like the level itself and go all in on visuals. After a quick beach segment, a bunch of game references are just machine gunned into your face. We have a shooter of some kind, not really sure which one since I don't play many of those. Then we have some Minecraft parkour, followed by Terraria mention, let's go! Woo! Terraria! Peak gameplay, peak gaming. Yeah, then we get this funny scene that portrays Geometry Dash in Geometry Dash. The absolute profound genius of this scene is so great that putting in the words is but a futile effort. Hatsune Miku! 10 out of 10 level, no notes. Nah, but for real, let's continue. There's Pinball and Space Invaders featuring anime girls, Not sure where they're from. But one neat thing about the Space Invaders is that the gunship is your wave, and you can even freely move it. It even kills different enemies based on your position. Then we have, no, wait, Miku, don't go, stay away from Discord. There's actually a bit more gameplay here with a charming art style and several anime girls I do not recognize. I'll leave that last part up to the comments. I'm not even gonna try to identify them because I'm just gonna get roasted. This ball section being part of the chalkboard, complete with custom chalk ball texture, is the highlight of the gameplay in the level. And that is a sentence, alright. That is a sentence. I guess I did comment on the gameplay a little bit, didn't I? Go figure. At this point, it seems like the level might be over. The music fades out and you enter this black hole thing, looking like a good finishing point. But in reality, it's just becoming more of a fever dream than it actually is. The music is now slower and trippier. We get more anime girls, some in strange forms. Your cube is just flying around for no reason. We get another Miku appearance. There's this 9-cat section with the wave again. The wave just wraps around vertically, so you don't need to worry about moving it. There's these transitional effects despite not transitioning to anything. What is this level? What is its theme? Internet culture? Maybe? I mean, I probably shouldn't read too far into it. There's probably not much rhyme or reason to it all. I suppose I should also briefly talk about the music as well. It's nothing too special. It sounds like Bounce, I Just Wanna Dance. You know, that one song that everyone uses on YouTube Shorts for some reason, or probably just used by the time I upload this. I mean, Boogie is made by Franzy and Joyful, who are the people that made Bounce, so I guess that makes sense. Also, side note, how do these collaborations even work? There's 3 people that work on this song. Franzy, Zach Z Winner, and Joyful. Does Franzy make the sound font, Joyful composes, and Zach Winner edits? Zach Z Winner? Oh, whatever. Is it something like that? Do they each work on different parts, maybe? I need to stop questioning Boogie. This has just become a whole lot of word salad. Boogie is a true enigma out of all of the event levels, and I love it for that. I mean, it also has Hatsune Miku, so, I mean, can I really complain? Number 5. What a great way to begin the event levels than with a throwback to one of the OGs. What a great way to start the NCS album with one of the OG artists, DJ VI. If you didn't know, DJ VI made many of the songs used in the main levels, such as Back on Track, Can't Let Go, and Cycles. But anyways, Back on Dash, the level we're talking about now, perfectly introduces the event levels and their freshness by portraying a level that feels familiar but also fun and new. First off, the gameplay. It definitely feels RobTop-esque, which should be par for the course for a level like this, but after seeing what people make when they do extended versions of the main levels, for example, having a remake actually be reminiscent of the original seems a lot rarer. Not to mention there are 1 or 2 parts that are just straight up ripped from the original level. Though to be honest, the farther the gameplay gets from the original, the better. The robot and ball are the highlights. Next up are the visuals, and once again, it hits. They made the 1.0 style pop so much with just a few little details and glow. I mean, it's really not much when you take a closer look. The deco really hits its stride at the ship at 58% though. The pulses going off through the lines in the background is such an amazing touch, and those squares at the top and bottom make it even more striking. Then they turn purple, and need I say more? I also love how the parts of the song that don't remix Back on Track and are pretty much original are accompanied by more unique backgrounds and styles, such as the space background with neon blocks and shooting star effects, this city background with more layered and structure blocks and these neat 3D circle looking things, and the area at 77% with these electro waves and audio visualizers. On that topic, let's finish off by talking about the song. We're really going piece by piece here, aren't we? While Back on Dash isn't as good as Back on Track in my opinion, I do still like it and appreciate that it goes for something different. The song in general is more swingy feeling and includes those aforementioned original segments that indeed feel like organic extensions to Back on Track rather than just slapped on. It's a shame they didn't include the best part of the song in the level though. Oh yeah, they're coins too, those exist, and they're alright. 2 out of 3 of them are just timing jumps differently, and the other one is the same as in Back on Track, so it's okay. While there wasn't too much to say on the level overall, there isn't really anything bad about it either. This is easily the most consistent level. And like I said, an excellent start and pretty impactful, at least to me. So that's why it's above this and 2 spots above this. Number 4. Okay, Duckstep is easily the funniest song and premise for a level. I want to know where Terminite and Chime got the idea of dubstep, but with duck sounds. I want to know where Knots got the idea of having the ducks run a factory as a level theme. And speaking of theme, it's great to finally see a cartoon level that doesn't have a minimalist aesthetic. In fact, this one is pretty much the opposite. There's so many minute, unnecessary details that I'd describe it as straight up maximalist. There's so many pipes, wires, bolts, random guardrails, vents, electrical boxes, other gizmos, ducks of course, and even more details layered into the background and the block design that I can't possibly note them all. So visuals will be skimmed a little bit. It won't matter too much, a lot of it remains consistent. Anyways, on to gameplay. I'm not a fan of 11%, it just feels too spammy. The ball section right afterwards feels a lot more satisfying as a click fast segment, for lack of a better term, because there's much more actual timing involved. After that, there's this robot segment that feels like it's supposed to be the cube, but they just change it to robot to make it more difficult, I guess. Nothing really else to say here, to be honest. Oh wait, the Quack Orbs! I can't forget about the Quack Orbs. Peak gaming right there. Next up is some vertical swing copter gameplay. We haven't seen anything vertical in quite a while, so it's great to see some of it again, however brief it may be. After this incredible transition where we enter a pipe, changing direction at every beat, and then exiting, was that too descriptive? I don't know. There's this pink orb staircase thingy, which is way more fun than it has any right to be. Also Mega Roboduck, that's fun. Another fire transition, man, this one was on a roll. The next ship part is my favorite part of the level. It's really long and it has a great sense of scale to it compared to most free flight segments. The usage of spider pads is very creative as well. I'm not a huge fan of how this part onward is noticeably slower than the first half of the level, just in general. However, it does pack a good punch. Every beat of the song is felt in game, and that's not just because of any sync, but also some of the effects. Like these wavy lines in the background at 49%, these arrows in circle right afterwards, and this laser at 78%, and they all sync with different parts of the song. So yeah, we lose speed, but we get impact in its place. So it's a fair trade-off, I guess. We get the return of Mega Roboduck and the pink orb staircase thing, then this ball part where we go across the bottom and then end up at the top somehow. That's neat, but I instantly died there because I had no idea I'd be going to the top. I mean, that's not a problem with the level. They give you an indication and everything. I thought it was funny. My misfortune is funny, right?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
The next cube and ship parts are pretty unremarkable, but the dual wave at 93% is extremely satisfying. Lastly, the coin. You get it by jumping to the ground beneath the Quack Orbs and jumping back out before you die. There's nothing really bad about this coin, but it is completely unnecessary. It doesn't take advantage of any special mechanic, it doesn't give you a special route or anything, it's just there. The fact that the timing to jump out is relatively strict tells me that it's not just a reward for being observant enough to spot it in spite of the funny Quack Orbs. So, kind of mediocre. Besides that, the level is pretty great. Creative gameplay, wonderful visual style, and hilarious execution. Number 3. I feel like Backstreet Boys should be a demon. Most of it's harder than what Cheat Codes has to offer, yet it's only rated insane. Well, okay, that is a weird way to start the segment. Okay, anyways. Another thing I want to make clear here before we dive in is that out of the few types of music I used to listen to before switching to exclusively listening to Kingdom Hearts OSTs, this is so not Cash Money! Boy band was not one of them. These references were not for me. The only ones I got were Backstreet Boys, obviously, and NSYNC. I can't say whether the song is reminiscent of that era of music because I missed that era, so I'll leave that up to you, anyone who grew up with that type of stuff. With all that being said, I still like it. Normally I particularly dislike when Geometry Dash songs have lyrics. They usually aren't very good from my experience. But if I had a nickel for every time a Geometry Dash event level made me like a song from a genre I generally dislike, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird to happen twice, right? I'm not sure what makes this one different, but I think it's probably because it's just like a normal pop song and not a Geometry Dash song with lyrics attached. What is a Geometry Dash song? Is that techno? Okay. Anyways, that singer is very talented. I don't know if Halverson? Hey, I got it. I don't know if Halverson or Netrum sang the song, but good job to whoever did. And good job to whoever made the background track for that matter. Both parts complement each other very well. Alright, back to the level itself. More vertical gameplay! Let's go! This one's a lot more in-depth than anything we've seen in the previous levels. Both sides of the screen are utilized, and have a good pace and length instead of just being really slow or short. The part before it's pretty unremarkable, by the way. After this, we break out of the arcade machine that we were apparently in, and now we're out in the city. Compared to Geometry and Skyline, this city is more cartoony, but it still has its fair share of details. I love the references to Back on Dash, Geometry, and cheat codes. It's done much more creatively than just name-dropping level and being done with it. Plus, the colors of the area are great, and that goes for all of the level, to be clear. It definitely captures that retro feel that I'd imagine they were going for with the song. This city section is accompanied by robot gameplay. This one feels like it's using the variable jump height of the robot much more than all the other levels. I never mentioned anything about the utilization of the robot anywhere else because it's really not a big deal, but it is a plus here. And while we're still on this segment, here's another thing that makes the level so great. Unique gameplay mechanics are introduced in an incredible manner. In this robot area, we have these magnetic rail things. When you touch them, you stick onto them and slide. And the way they're introduced is, like I said, incredible. You're forced to jump into them, otherwise you'll fall into this pit, so it already implicitly tells you that it's not dangerous. And if you're worried you'll fall, you can just hold down jump since you're the robot. Eventually you'll run out of boost, but that's when it'll be made clear how these rails work. And that's not even mentioning the visual cues. All of that to only use them twice. Such a shame. This tunnel section up next is also pretty unremarkable gameplay wise, but there are even more references to past event levels with these posters in the background, so that's cool. Next is what I call the Dark City, and it is the best part of the level. Having wall jumps be marked by orbs inside of the walls is an excellent way to convey how it works and telegraph the jumps properly. It's also awesome how well this area flows for how many direction changes there are. It's also smooth and fun, though it does sometimes feel like you're expected to learn the layout first before you have a chance to actually beat it. Oh, is that what people mean when they use the term learny? Oh, yes, I get it now. I didn't know that until now. I think that's what it means, right? This level's coin is also located here, and whoo boy is it amazing. You can very clearly see that there's some gameplay down here you can't reach when you enter the area. And if you're especially keen, you might see the actual coin chilling in this building out of your way. So how do you reach it? There's this mini portal right before the first wall jumps. If you skip the first jump, use the portal, and then immediately jump and bounce off the wall, you'll miss the second wall and start to go backwards. Then you go back through the gravity portal you came from and go through that area you previously couldn't reach, bounce off these other 2 walls, get the coin, and then end up back on track. Wow, that was a lot. Such a creative coin that isn't too hidden but absolutely isn't free. Love it. But there's one last piece to this level, the hotel. This part, surprise surprise, is also super fun and creative. It's pretty similar to those other single screen back and forth areas from the previous levels, but this one has 2 cubes at once going through 2 different floors and a very clever usage of the duel. This sounds like a nightmare, especially when you consider that it's not really your regular duel gameplay, it's like slightly desynced, I guess. You don't have 2 cubes going in the same position for each floor, to put it simply. I went off script there. Anyways, Your jumps line up in between floors, so realistically you only need to keep track of one floor at a time, but there's still a bit of challenge, since switching your focus between floors can sometimes mean missing a jump and messing up. Oh yeah, and these guys in the rooms at the top? Those are the cubes from the creators of the past 6 levels. Isn't that cool? You wanna know what's even cooler? There's a secret ending to this level. It's nothing insane, but it's crazy that it exists. You get it by getting the coin, and it depicts the character that was alluded to throughout the level. The jump in quality from dubstep to this is ridiculous. There's so much going on, so many unique gameplay elements, so many great uses of regular gameplay as well. Simply amazing. No question whatsoever as to why it's a fan favorite. Should have been a demon though. Number 2. Alright, let's just get this out of the way. Noelle Electra is my favorite song out of the entire album. Huh, make that 3 nickels, I guess. The main difference here compared to other dubstep songs is that the first half keeps things relatively reserved and doesn't go too hard or too noisy. It prioritizes a more melodic sound than a super impactful one. I'm pretty sure a lot of dubstep is like this, but when I think dubstep, I think of the very loud stuff, so there's a bit of a negative association there. But even the second half of the song, which does go super hard and super loud, it still isn't too overkill. Plus you have plenty of calmer parts interspersed throughout, making it flow better. Although I do admit there might be a bit of hypocrisy on my part with that last statement. But come on, am I really gonna argue with a Christmas music mashup? We got We Three Kings, Carol of the Bells, The Nutcracker Suite, What Child Is This, and even God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen at the end. All woven together beautifully. I could go on and on about how much I love this song, but we'd be here even longer than if I kept going on about Ruins. So let's just say that Ever and Maxwell knocked it out of the park and just leave it at that. The first thing that's notable about the gameplay as a whole is that pretty much all of it syncs. Maybe it's a bit redundant to comment on sync at this point, but I mean it. Pretty much every click in the level is synchronized to a beat of the song. I would mention all of the notable examples now, but I'm just going to mention them as we go through the level because this is another one that we're going to break down. Starting with the Ball in the Bell Tower. That sounds like a title of a really bad movie. Anyways, this sets up the stage for the sync as well as the festive nature of the level itself. Then there's a surprisingly epic scene where we bust out the side of the tower in slow-mo, and then we land on the ski slope and jump through these orb triplets. Then we get to this collapsing bridge, and I love this part. Weaving through the different layers so smoothly into those pretty meaty beats is extremely satisfying. Then we land on a train. Does this count as diegetic? Does playing the level on a train count as diegetic, or is that just a setting? Either way, this part has such a good energy to it. The winter aesthetic combined with the cheerfulness of the song makes the ensuing areas feel so light and fun. I'm super biased because I love Christmas so much, but I feel like most would agree with this sentiment. I also like how we go on top of this one car twice. We end up going backwards a little bit, so we end up on the second car here, but instead of moving on from there, we go across the first car again and get up on top again with the same spirit orb that sent us backwards in the first place, and that is very confusing. I like how we slowly go up with the ball as the tone of the song rises. Very cool. And look, they even sync the swing copter to the song. Then we actually enter the train cars themselves. I love how so far they've been using this one setting to every extent they could. It feels very cohesive. We get some tight and satisfying Cuban UFO, I love these rapid double clicks, and a ship that syncs with the music. They even made the ship have its clicks sync pretty well with the music. That is crazy. Maybe. I don't know, maybe other levels do this a lot. After that, there's a big space of a whole lot of nothing as we pass through the passenger car. And I feel like they could have used this dead space and fill it with like some few simple jumps. So, you know, it's not dead, but it's not a huge deal. We then see another train in the background. All the passenger cubes go to look at it and uh-oh. Well, that escalated quickly. So are all the passengers on this train dead? I mean, we pop out of it, so this left train is definitely the one we were just in a second ago. Well, rip to those cubes, I guess. A lot of people seem to hate the second part of the level. And to that I say, womp womp. Every time an obstacle comes out of nowhere, you either have slow-mo so you have enough time to react, or it comes into frame much earlier than normal thanks to camera effects, so you know what's about to happen. All the various gravity and direction changes are pretty irrelevant since you're mostly tapping orbs, and anything that doesn't involve tapping orbs makes your orientation pretty clear before moving, and are generally pretty lenient either way, with this wave correcting your placement whenever you get near a portal, for example, and the swing copter sections giving you indicators. I like the chaos, I like dodging all the wreckage and fire, I like the timing of these orbs, they don't feel too spammy except maybe this first set. I like the fast pace and mode changes, I like how you still have to think fast despite how relatively merciful the level is during this part, and I also like how intense and punched up the song is. Though admittedly the various flashes and other effects are kinda obnoxious. Oh yeah, and you can skip this last set of orbs without dying. That's funny. We get another slow-mo cutscene where bells start raining down from the sky and the screen starts to close as your cube slowly falls. This part also feels like too much dead space, but I'll allow it because it's the end and the slowdown gives the calmer music more of an impact. Though it does feel like this level has a lot of filler in general, so that's another small issue I have. Gameplay-wise, Backstreet Boy is better, but Noel Electra just had an immaculate vibe to it. And his gameplay was no slouch either, at least in my opinion. But there is one more level that does both things even better. Number 1, Citadel! Woo! Yeah baby, let's go peak level! Everything is great here. Gameplay, visuals, music, all top notch. So let's break it down, shall we? The level opens up with cube gameplay on the grounds of the titular Citadel. This is probably the weakest part of the level, but it's still very good. I like how despite the good sync, you still have to think about when to jump instead of just generally clicking to the beat. While we're on the topic, let's talk about the music. This one is made by the GOATs, Waterflame and Boom Kitty, two composers that also made songs featured in the main levels. Waterflame made songs like Jumper, Electroman Adventures, Blast Processing, and Geometrical Dominator. Meanwhile, Boom Kitty made Power Trip and Sub-Zero as well as the Cursed Thorns theme. As for Citadel, it goes hard. There's one part in particular that I'll talk about in a minute, but I still have praise to give it now. Firstly, I like how it sounds haunting and grandiose, likely due to the chorus, but it doesn't feel cliche. Not once is the harpsichord ever whipped out, or the organ for that matter. Or at least, not until the second half of the song. I think there's a harpsichord there. But that part of the song isn't used in the level, so who cares? But I think the main claim to fame this song has is that bass, man. That bass line goes crazy the whole time. But back to the level. Next up is the ship and swing copter section. And here we get a few takeaways for the level as a whole. First off, the visuals. I was concerned at the first part because it looked a little flat and lifeless, similar to cheat codes, but this part dashed those fears.
Get it? Because it's called Geometry Dash?
The lighting on the bricks and other obstacles give everything a lot more depth, and the outlines on some of the obstacles and such make things pop. Green and purple is just such an amazing contrast. The fog and electricity effects are pretty good as well. Not mind-blowing like in Ruins, but it fits the theme. And lastly, the excellent use of depth in the backgrounds. We have these pillars in the foreground and background, and another wall with these amazing geometry-ified paintings even further back, all layered to perfection. Or later on in the garden section when we have trees in the background, windows behind that, and chandeliers inside of the building that move to your perspective instead of just with the windows. We also have these ramps that these spiked balls roll off of, and they also move to match your perspective, making a really convincing 3D effect. That brings me to the next takeaway from this one section. Lots of diegetic obstacles. A lot of them. We have the aforementioned rolling spiked balls, which I've seen some complain about how it's too hard to tell exactly where the balls will end up or when they're able to damage you. But I mean, you have this trail telling you where to go, that should clue you in enough. Besides that, there are also these swing spike balls and haunted candelabras serving as hazards in this section. And there's even more diegetic obstacles scattered past the area, but I think I'll mention them when we get to them so this review won't be too top heavy. They're a bit more spread out than the use of depth, for example. What about the gameplay for this part? it's nothing special. I suppose the ship part is notable for requiring more specific control than just a relatively smooth path, but Skyline and Duck Step do the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. After this, there's a robot section in that garden I talked about. Apart from the background and these magic shears and burning bushes, there's really nothing much to say. This is probably the weakest part of the level overall. I know I just said the cube part at the beginning was the weakest, but no, I lied.
Liar, liar, plants for hire.
It's pants on fire, Patrick.
Then we enter a liquor cellar, but these lanterns are pretty loose, so they fall and now everything is on fire because alcohol. The speed is the only notable part here. The gameplay is pretty easy, especially after a little bit of practice. Then we have the set of 3 triple spikes preceding the drop. Button Masher did the same thing, but this one is much more notable because there's a whole lot more buildup. And also because that drop is immaculate, holy crap. Again, that bassline is so good and crisp. And now it's given the spotlight, alongside that drum beat, making it all such a freaking vibe. I also have to mention how satisfying the gameplay sync is to this part, as simple as it is. UFO is perfect for maximizing the satisfaction of clicking to a steady beat. Then we jump from this robot section where we go from birdcage to birdcage. Diegetic. I like this cool purple glow emanating from below, bars. There's a fast-paced spider followed by a mini wave. This wave is weird. The first part, like most type but not friggin' impossible waves, is very satisfying to pull off. The second bit is where it's really odd. These flames have hitboxes that are wider than the slopes, making your timings tighter. It's not a problem per se, just unorthodox. Then you get regular sized and go through these pillars as they're cut in half. I like the slash effects. Then there's another swing copter segment where you need to pick the right door. First of all, diegetic. Second, I feel like they could have given you more time to react after the wrong path reveals itself. Sometimes these pick-up path sections feel really unfair if the timing isn't forgiven enough. Anyways, now the screen has been cut in half. I love this. It's such a minor yet super creative way to add a twist to the gameplay. Plus the way they do it by having a haunted suit of armor breaking the fourth wall and slicing your screen is so funny. Then they make it a duel by slicing your cube in half. That's so cool! I've seen some people complain about this part, claiming that it's too hard to read, but I say skill issue. You just need to jump slightly earlier. How horrible. The gameplay is also much simpler compared to the previous cube and spider sections. And this level just keeps hitting. Now we have another vertical section to finish it all off. This is the best of all the vertical gameplay in my opinion. It being the ship makes it the most challenging by far, especially with the comparatively high amount of obstacles. Then you get to go on both sides of the tower, meaning different gravities. It absolutely helps. This is probably the longest vertical section as well. I think maybe the one in Backstreet Boy might be longer. We finished by getting chomped by a skull. How epic. What a level. You may have noticed that I went through every bit of gameplay it has to offer, and that's not just because I find it super fun 90% of the time. I've mentioned every little bit to build up my final point in Citadel's favor. There is never really a dull moment. Everything is pretty high energy or is at least really engaging. The only true downtime is when you're falling down to those triple spikes. This is also probably the hardest event level blow for blow. Noelle Electra is rated harder, but that one really is only more demanding in reaction time. Citadel requires more skill in general. But yeah, easily the most fun gameplay, very creative moments while still keeping it fair. Visually appealing, diegetic obstacles, banger song, it's the best of all worlds. Citadel is the greatest event level. For now. And that's all of them. What a great set of levels right here. I'm definitely not using any of the free rewards, I'm not gonna lie. But to be corny for a second, the levels were rewards in of themselves. They truly were a joy to play and opened my eyes to how fun Geometry Dash can be outside of the official levels. So yeah, thanks event levels, and thank you for watching everyone. So leave a like if you enjoyed, dislike if you didn't, I can still see those. Leave a comment if you're also a Geometry Dash fan, or even if you're not, anything helps. And have a great rest of your day. Hey, this is Crafty Boy. After editing's finished, I just want to record some of my thoughts about the video. Just some honest thoughts at the end of the day. First of all, my Glacial Pace. I started working on this after Button Masher came out, but it took me so long to get this done that we now have 3 new event levels. Yeah, if you're wondering where they would rank, Heave Ho is dead last. As cool as that level is, there's way too much wrong with the gameplay. GD Gangster Rap I think is probably up 4th, like above Duckstep, but not quite top 3. The song and theme are incredible, and the gameplay is good, but I just think the other 3 do it better for me. And then Skeletal Shenanigans, I think above Boogie. I do really like the gameplay for that level. Not a huge fan of the theme, and some of it is a little boring, but I think it's pretty great. But the main thing I wanted to say here at the end is I want criticism. I want to make more videos like this in the future, and I want to know how I can improve. So yeah, don't go easy on me. Just say anything you find wrong with it, and I'll do my best to fix it next time. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you if you made it all the way this far to this interview at the end. Comment GD is cool, I guess, if you made it this far. Yeah, see you later.